peace and prosperity in 2019.
In his letter, Chairman Kim sent warm end-of-the-year greetings and said the leaders of the two Koreas should move forward together in the new year for peace and prosperity on the Korean peninsula.
The regime's young leader also said he hopes to meet with President Moon more often in 2019 as they work towards denuclearization in the region. About a highly anticipated visit by Kim to Seoul before the end of 2018, Kim wrote that he had much regret it did not happen as planned this year, but added he's willing to visit Seoul soon while keeping an eye on things that might affect such a visit. Uploading parts of the two-page letter on his Facebook and Twitter accounts, President Moon said South Korea is unchanged in welcoming Kim's reciprocal visit to the South Korean capital. He added that he's happy Kim has shown an interest in meeting as often in the new year to work for peaceful development and denuclearization. The South Korean leader, after receiving his first letter from Kim Jong-un in 10 months, is set to send his own formal letter back soon. Kim's letter has renewed hopes for inter-Korean relations in 2019, ending weeks of lackluster communication between the two Koreas as the North's denuclearization talks with the U.S. have gone off the boil. However, Kim's letter to President Moon is expected to put inter-Korean diplomacy back on track, with their next summit looking that much more likely to happen in Seoul. Shin Se-min, Arirang News.
Russian President Vladimir Putin has conveyed his New Year's greetings to President Moon Jae-in, in which he stressed close cooperation between Seoul and Moscow. The Kremlin says the message noted how this year's talks between the two leaders in Moscow and then in Singapore have been significant driving engines in forming a constructive bilateral relationship. Putin also called for stronger coordination in addressing regional and international issues. The Russian president also sent messages to other world leaders, including those in the UK, Germany and Vietnam. Now, the North Korean leader's friendly letter to President Moon Jae-in has stirred up even more anticipation for Kim Jong-un's annual New Year's speech. His comments on New Year's Day could set the tone for North Korea diplomacy in 2019, so there's a lot riding on it. Our Lee Ji-won sat down with some experts for their thoughts on what Kim might say.
The series of unexpected diplomatic events in 2018 started with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's New Year's speech, in which he said he would be willing to have North Korean athletes compete in the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics. This is why many are closely watching the leader's speech for 2019 to see if it might contain something to end the stalemate in talks between the North and the U.S. But many experts doubt Kim's speech will provide a breakthrough.
I don't think there'll be anything new or surprising in the speech. If you look at the North's recent speeches, including the one at the UN General Assembly in September, North Korea has been reiterating why the regime had to develop and hold onto nuclear weapons because of threats from the US. I don't think it will go far beyond that.
Some say Kim might use strong rhetoric to threaten the U.S. that the denuclearization talks could fall apart unless Washington takes measures corresponding to the steps the regime has taken, including the shutdown of the Punggye nuclear test site. But many experts don't think Kim will go that far.
Kim wouldn't want to risk the current momentum for dialogue. I think Kim will praise President Donald Trump's determination and what an achievement their summit was. But he will also pressure the U.S. to implement the Singapore Joint Declaration and urge Washington to take steps as well, which could include the lifting of sanctions or declaring an end to the Korean War.
The experts agree that the ongoing talks with the U.S. are not likely to take up a huge portion of Kim's speech and predicted that it will largely cover inter-Korean ties. They said exchanges with the South were a big development for the North this year, and so the leader will emphasize that while pushing to further reduce military threats. Also, 2019 is the fourth year of the North's 5-year plan for its economy, so experts say Kim will push its people and officials to do their best to boost the economy. Lee Ji-won, Arirang News.
Now, Japan's been claiming a South Korean Navy destroyer recently used its targeting radar to lock onto a Japanese patrol plane. But experts here in South Korea who've seen the video of the Japanese plane and from inside it are saying that it did not happen. Furthermore, they say it was the plane flying at a low altitude over the ship that was in fact threatening. An expert from the Korea Research Institute for Military Affairs says the plane was never in a position where it could have been in the fire control radar's beams because of the limited angles at which the radar operates. On December 20th, the Korean destroyer was conducting a humanitarian search for a North Korean ship in the East Sea when a Japanese patrol plane approached it at close range. US President Donald Trump has held phone talks with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping about their country's trade conflict, and afterwards both sides were sounding pretty positive. They also touched on the Korean Peninsula peace process, President Xi saying again that he supports talks between the US and the North. Yoon Jong-min with the details.
On Twitter, President Trump said he just had a long and a very good call with President Xi of China and that the two covered all subjects, areas, and points of dispute. He also said a deal is moving along very well and he expects some progress to be made on a comprehensive level. This month at the G20 summit in Argentina, the two leaders called a truce on the trade war. If a deal isn't reached by a deadline in March, President Trump has been threatening to increase tariffs from the current 10% to 25% on $200 billion worth of Chinese goods. China welcomed news of some improvement in trade relations and bilateral ties. According to Chinese media, including Xinhua, President Xi emphasized the importance of diplomatic ties with Washington and expressed hopes for cooperation on international and regional issues. In their phone call, the leaders also discussed broader issues. Reports say Xi reiterated his support for America's talks with North Korea for peace on the Korean Peninsula, hoping for positive results. Yoon Jung-min, Arirang News.
Now, two of President Moon Jae-in's top aides are scheduled to field questions at the National Assembly today about a scandal involving the alleged illegal surveillance of private citizens. Opposition parties, especially the main opposition Liberty Korea Party, are expected to grill President Moon's Chief of Staff Im Jong-seok and his Civil Affairs Senior Secretary Jong-un for their alleged involvement. They're also accused of compiling a blacklist of executives at public organizations affiliated with the Environment Ministry earlier this year. The ruling party denies the allegations, saying it will prove the scandal is nothing more than fake news. South Korea's consumer prices rose 1.3% on year in December. That's the lowest increase in 5 months. Statistics Korea says agricultural goods rose by double digits, but falling global oil prices drove down overall consumer prices, leading to a slowdown from the 2% on-year price gain seen in September, October and November. Core inflation, which excludes food and energy prices, rose by a mere 1.1%. As for 2018 as a whole, consumer prices rose 1.5%, less than the previous year's 1.9% increase. Now, 2019 is the year of the golden pig, which is the 12th Chinese zodiac animal and a symbol of wealth and good fortune. While pigs are often thought of as lazy and rather unintelligent animals, the truth is actually they are not. Our Kim Hyo-sun tells us more.
This pig is a pig of many talents. It knows how to dribble a ball and how to bowl. It can also bow to greet the audience. There are also cute mini pigs that can participate in racing games. Known to have a keen sense of smell, pigs are also very smart, despite what most people think.
Pigs are thought to be lazy and dumb, but they are actually very clean and smart, and you can even have them toilet trained. IQ tests have revealed that pigs can even outsmart dogs.
Moreover, pigs have great research value as a genetically modified pig's cornea transplanted into a monkey is showing great progress.
We believe the potential for big corneas for transplants is very high and will be used in clinical trials on humans before too long.
Pigs are often considered symbols of wealth and good fortune, which is why the birth rate during the years of the golden pig often surged by 10% in South Korea. Likewise, many people around the world are hoping the new year can bring them great fortune and wealth. Kim Hyun-sun, Arirang News.
Now we're going to start our look at the international news in Africa today. People in the Democratic Republic of Congo have voted for a new president, but it's been an election mired by numerous delays and also, unfortunately, some violence. For more on this and other news from around the world, let's turn to our Aram. So Aram, what's the latest?
Well, Mark, the vote itself was already 2 years delayed due to the political turmoil in that country and logistical problems. The same issue arose on election day. Things started slowly as heavy rain in the capital, Kinshasa, forced many people to stay home. Those who went to vote had to wait for hours as many polling stations were not ready to open. One of the reasons for the delay was a failure to install new electronic voting machines. Now, these devices themselves have come under scrutiny for possibly being able to rig election results. Polls officially closed at 5 p.m. on Sunday local time, but those still waiting in line were allowed to vote. Meanwhile, there were isolated pockets of violence. A policeman and a civilian were killed in an altercation after voters accused an election official of voter fraud. The officer fatally shot a young man involved in the melee, and the crowd then beat the officer to death. The winner of the long-awaited vote will end President Joseph Kabila's 17 years in power, despite the frustrations of the chaotic preparations for Sunday's vote. The Congolese people are actually hoping that the new president will bring about stability in a nation plagued by authoritarian rule and civil wars. The final result is expected to be announced in a week's time. Meanwhile, violence and accusations of voter fraud has also struck general elections over in Bangladesh. At least 17 people have been killed in clashes across the country between ruling party supporters and the opposition. Bangladeshis were voting Sunday on whether to give Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina a third consecutive term. The election has been marred by allegations of human rights abuses by her government as well as vote rigging. There have been reports of ballot boxes being filled before polls actually opened. Bangladesh's opposition condemned what it called a farcical election and demanded a new vote. The governing party accused the opposition of peddling false claims. Outgoing White House Chief of Staff John Kelly says he has nothing but compassion for undocumented migrants crossing into the United States. He also undercut President Trump's claims to be building a wall at the Mexico border. In an interview with the LA Times, which was published on Sunday, Kelly said illegal immigrants overwhelmingly are not bad people. President Trump, on numerous occasions, has described migrants as criminals and terrorists. Kelly also said Trump backed away from the notion of a solid concrete wall early on in the administration, adding the president has recently tended towards steel slats. This is the first admission from Trump's inner circle that the president's signature campaign pledge would not be fulfilled as promised. President Trump is at loggerheads with the Democrats over funding for the wall, which has led to a partial U.S. government shutdown. Now, 2018 has been a year full of the usual mix of uplifting, surprising and tragic news. The last 12 months have also seen a number of famous faces in the world of entertainment, politics and science pass away. Our Lee Seung-jae takes a look at some of the high-profile people who died in 2018 and the legacy they leave behind.
2018 saw a number of big names pass away, including those in the fashion industry. Hubert de Givenchy, died in March at the age of 91. The French designer had worked with some of the biggest legends in fashion before founding his own fashion house in 1952. He will forever be remembered for his work with Audrey Hepburn, who shaped the future of Givenchy's legacy. In the same month, Stephen Hawking, widely considered one of the brightest scientists of our lifetime, died at the age of 76. Despite being diagnosed with ALS, Hawking worked to solve some of the greatest mysteries of space. Some of the biggest names in politics also left us in 2018. They include former UN Secretary General Kofi Annan, who died in August at the age of 80, and former U.S. Senator and presidential candidate John McCain, who died in the same month after a battle with an aggressive form of brain cancer. And just 7 months after the death of former First Lady Barbara Bush, the 41st President of the United States, George H.W. Bush, died last month at the age of 94. From star chef Anthony Bourdain to Aretha Franklin to Swedish DJ Avicii, the entertainment world also saw its fair share of stars die in 2018. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
Now we are going to continue our look back at the biggest news stories of 2018, just around 14 hours of the year remaining here in South Korea. And no one could deny it's been anything other than an unbelievably successful year for K-pop band BTS. Over the past 12 months, the 7-member boy band has smashed record after record, and their chart successes led to a series of other remarkable achievements as well. So Eun-kyung reports.
In 2018, the Korean megagroup BTS pushed the boundaries of what K-pop can achieve on the world stage. BTS had 2 #1 albums on the Billboard 200 with Love Yourself Tear in June and Love Yourself Answer in September. This was the first time a K-pop album topped the US chart and was the first time in 12 years that an album in a foreign language achieved such a feat.
Getting 2 albums on the Billboard 200 is monumental, and the fact that their singles, Fake Love and Idol, were listed on the Hot 100 Singles chart makes it no exaggeration to say that BTS has conquered both the album and the singles chart.
In addition, BTS became the first Korean artist to feature on the cover of the global edition of Time magazine. Time described the group as the most popular boy band in the world and even compared their performances to the Beatles and One Direction. BTS were also the first ever Korean artists to address the United Nations and were invited to help the launch of UNICEF Generation Unlimited, an education and employment program for young people. The band's leader RM delivered a speech to the General Assembly and encouraged people to love themselves as they are, reiterating the theme of the group's Love Yourself albums. An expert says this connection with their fans is a major reason for the band's success.
BTS have successfully applied various aspects of their lives, sadness, joy, and love to their songs, which have drawn their fans' sympathy, strengthening emotional ties between the boy group and their fans.
The group will start New Year on their Love Yourself World Tour with gigs in Japan and Singapore in January, continuing to perform their fans all over the world. Eun-kyung, Arirang News.
Now, 2018 also marked another huge step forward for humankind as we, as humans, delve ever deeper into the darkest reaches of space. In one of NASA's most remarkable achievements yet, the agency's InSight spacecraft landed on Mars in late November and has already sent back some stunning pictures. Park Ji-won reports.
After cruising some 550 million kilometers from Earth, NASA's InSight spacecraft landed on Mars on November 26, 2018. It was a voyage of more than 6 months since its launch in California on May 5th. But it was only after a nail-biting 7 minutes as the spacecraft entered the Martian atmosphere that scientists and engineers at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory were able to confirm that their probe had landed on the surface. And then they erupted into cheers and applause.
The whole room went crazy. My inner 4-year-old came out, but it was not bad. Some of the people on the team had made a timeout area for me just in case. I didn't have to use it. But it was an incredible experience, and it was amazing.
Minutes after the landing, the lander started sending back pictures of the red planet.
That first image from the Viking lander, that bright red image, we'd seen all these nice black and white images from the moon, and they were amazing, but this bright red image from Mars, and the first image from another planet, and now I'm looking at this image from InSight, and it's just, it's like a full circle of a whole career, working towards understanding Mars better.
The name InSight stands for Interior Exploration using seismic investigations, geodesy, and heat transport, which encompasses the lander's 2-year mission. InSight aims to measure the size of Mars' core and to explore interior layers of the planet, which formed 4.5 billion years ago along with Earth. Specifically, NASA hopes to look at seismic activity on Mars, how often it experiences quakes, how big they are, and for what reasons, so it can understand the planet inside and out. InSight landed near the planet's equator and is about 600 kilometers away from where the Mars rover Curiosity landed back in 2012. NASA's long-term goal on Mars is to send a manned mission there by the 2030s or 2040s. 박지원, Arirang News.
Good morning. It's a cold and dry end to 2018. A cold wave advisory remains in place for many parts of the country, while dry weather alerts have been expanded and upgraded to a warning here in the capital. Temperature-wise, it should feel a bit more bearable than what we've experienced recently. Expect the same weather pattern over the next few days. And luckily, clear skies are forecast for tonight in most areas. And daily highs for the day will be similar or a tad higher than yesterday, getting up to 0 degrees here in Seoul, 6 degrees for Daegu this afternoon. Now, it seems like we have some timetable for the last sunset of 2018 and the first sunrise of 2019 across Korea right here. Do bundle up tight if you plan to catch the moment. And there are, of course, many popular spots to check out the last sunset and first sunrise of the year across Korean Peninsula. And here are some recommended spots for those in Seoul. So take these places into account if you want to head out this evening or early tomorrow morning. That's Korea for you, and here's the international weather for viewers around the world.
Well, that's all we have for now on this New Year's Eve morning here in Seoul. Do stay tuned to Arirang TV, and we'll have our next newscast at noon Korea time. If we don't see you, though, have a wonderful and healthy New Year. Until next time, goodbye.
you.